All right. All right. Welcome back to Blackbird News, where everything is connected. How you doing? Good to see y'all. Thanks for hanging out today and every day on Blackbird News. We're live on YouTube, Rockfin, and on Callin. Let's see. Just looking at the chats a little bit. Hello, Rockfin people. How you doing? Rockfinners. Sorry. That's annoying. That's annoying, isn't it? You know, sometimes you got to keep going when you find yourself doing something annoying. Oh, yeah. Actually, I was going to cover that story today, Denver. I think you knew that's what the picture is from. The thumbnail is from. But thanks for excuse me. Thanks for sending the link. I appreciate it. Thanks for linking up, bro. All right. That's right. Talk about it. Obsolete optics. Talk about it. Dollar bills used to be United States notes, not Federal Reserve notes. Right. The Federal Reserve is not federal. It is a private corporation, which means it is not actually a government body. It's part of the government. I don't know. I think it's hard to make a distinction between the government or the corporation that is in control of the government. That's a different thing. That's not the same as the government. The greenback, the term greenback comes from the bills that were printed during the Civil War that were used to fund the Civil War. And they were just fiat. I don't think they were backed by anything. But they were issued by Lincoln. And one of the theories of why Lincoln was killed in the manner that he was killed was that he was resisting the the creation of a central bank, this Federal Reserve. And he was also, and then if you want to tie that through to Kennedy, Kennedy was actually issuing silver dollars that were United States minted. They were not Federal Reserve currency coins. They were actually federally backed coins, not Federal Reserve backed coins, right? He was trying to go outside of the Federal Reserve, and so one of the theories or the possible reasons why he wasn't allowed to continue on in his duties anyways. Yeah, I do agree with you, Denver, on that one. Yeah, I do agree with you. All right, there's things going on some things going on around the world. Got a good group of folks on Rockfin. What's up? We got some people hanging out on Callin. What's up? All right. Let's get ready to rumble. I don't know why. I'm just going to say and or do annoying things today. How about that? Is that good? Is that all right? All right. We're not there yet. Massive protests in the United States against Israel. Did anybody know this was happening? Thousands of people have taken part in a mass rally in Detroit in support of the Palestinians. Huh. That's a lot of people. I had no idea that was happening. That's a lot of support for Palestinians, isn't it? Anyways. I'm taking this at face value that this is in Detroit and that I see a lot of flags, Palestinian flags, right? So looks like they're supporting Palestinians. That's a good group of people there. That's happening. In France, strikes in France are not abating. Activists occupied the building of the Mo Annecy Louis Vuitton group. Several hundred French railway workers and trade unionists protesting against the pension reform occupied the building of LVMH Group in Paris. Excuse me. Not stopping. So, cops coming in, beat people up because, It's awesome when cops look like stormtroopers and all bulked up militarily. It's just, just keeping the peace. Just allowing for some of that the good old peaceful protest. Yeah, the story of the story of the Lincoln assassination is an interesting one. And John Wilkes Booth had a brother, right, who has some interesting connections. Anyways. And here in Texas, a dairy farm exploded yesterday, vaporizing. Did it actually vaporize? I don't know. I mean, it's a good word. I guess, makes it seem. But I mean, it explode. Did they all explode? I don't know. Maybe they did. It's a lot of cows. 18,000 cows. So, what's really going on there? No, people don't know. Nobody knows, but. Fire at Texas dairy farm may be the largest cattle killing ever. The fire spread quickly through the holding pens, where thousands of dairy cows crowded together waiting to be milked, trapped in deadly confines. After subduing the fire at the West Texas dairy farm Monday evening, officials were stunned at the scale of the livestock death left behind. 18,000 cattle. A dairy farm worker rescued from inside the structure was taken to a hospital, was in critical but stable condition. There were no other human casualties. Well, God, at least there were no humans killed. Only the poor cows. So sad. We were going to eat them anyways. Or milk them or whatever. It's the biggest single incident death of cattle in the country since the Animal Welfare Institute, a Washington-based animal advocacy group, began tracking barn and farm fires in 2013. That easily surpassed the previous high, a 2020 fire in upstate New York that consumed 400 cows. So that was the previous high was 400, from 400 to 18,000. Jesus. Wow, that is a big fire. So I don't know. Again, it's hard to know exactly what happened, what's going on. With each cow valued at roughly $2,000, the company's losses in livestock could stretch into tens of millions of dollars. That doesn't include equipment and structure loss. Just going to take a second to point out that all other living beings on the planet are considered commodities to be traded and have a value on their head or a value on their lives. Just something to think about. I'm not making any commentary one way or the other, but just, consider that. That if another human had a dollar value on their head, you might think that disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. Wouldn't you? I don't know. Nick Oliver sent me this in case you missed it. In Richmond, Indiana, a recycling plant fire will burn for a long time. A massive column of smoke could be seen over Richmond, Indiana on Wednesday after a fire broke out at a local recycling facility. Forcing thousands to evacuate. Excuse me. That's massive. It has to... it has to make you wonder what is going on. That all, train derailments and fires, and it's like we have lost control on some level of, you just have all the, and a lot of people, a lot of people are insinuating and or think or implicating or thinking that this is all, some kind of intentional. I don't know. I don't know that. And you're welcome to think that if that's what you think. That it's a demolition. Is it a demolition or is it? It could be a demolition, or is it just straight up incompetence? Like high level incompetence. Are we just losing the capability to keep our civilization from crumbling around us? Which is kind of what is happening on a lot of levels, right? You have sure the East Palestine disaster and the railroads. Railroad disasters are, you can point to the company and the changes in regulations and the safety codes and all that, but there was also, coupled with that is the fact that the rails themselves, the infrastructure itself is crumbling, right? Not able to sustain its operational, I don't know what you want, integrity, right? I like that. Obsolete Optics says, Hanlon's razor says, not attribute to malice that which can be adequately be explained by stupidity, right? I use that in my own life, not necessarily, maybe stupidity, but human error. Human error, I often run into problems and whatever it might be that are, 50% or more generally like me messing it up, me not understanding what is going on, or me not doing something right, So instead of jumping to the conclusion that like somebody's doing this to me, what's going on here? Now, not to say that that can't be an answer. It could be an answer. Absolutely. But you should probably go through the old, what am I doing to cause the situation first? You should do that first before you get to the whole, like, somebody's doing this to me, right? Or us, you could apply that to humans. Somebody's doing this to us. Is it somebody's doing this to us, or are we not doing things properly? Are we not doing things properly? I don't know. I tell you, I have been driving all over LA lately, and the roads are just absolute horrific, in horrific condition. And a lot of it is due to just the absolute pounding that all the roads take from all the traffic and all the trucks and all that stuff. But it's and it's a massive city, and it's a massive undertaking to keep those roads maintained to a level in which cars can roll over them without breaking their axles off. It's just, and it's got to that because of all the rain that we've had. The roads are just an absolute shambles. And it's a very dicey, difficult thing to be driving around on LA roads these days, because if you are not eagle-eyed, a pothole will take out your tire or your axle or something, right? And it just things are just crumbling. But that's right. I like that. Obsolete optics. To fuck around is human, to find out is divine. Very good, very good. I like it. Let's put that one up. All right, let's keep going. Well, yeah, we're going to get to the Fort Lauderdale. And I actually sent Kim Iverson some tweets. I immediately thought about the goofball woman that she interviewed. No, there really isn't that, there's climate change is not a crisis. And there's nothing, Florida, everything's fine in Florida. There's no sea level rise. And, really? They have king tides, several king tides a year in Miami. Just because the sea level rise is an actual thing. And she just spent, that whole show talking about it's nothing. But you can see with your own eyes, like if you actually lived in Miami or if you actually lived in Florida, or you could actually see the sea level rise happening. And you can see, if you live on this planet Earth, you can actually see that something is, drastically wrong with the weather. Something is going on, not just the weather, but just with the climate in general. The knock-on effects, we have trees dying all over the Pacific Northwest and the Rocky Mountains because, it's a very simple thing. Warmer weather has allowed these bark beetles to infiltrate the trees, and millions of trees are dying. It's happening all over California. It's a thing. It is a thing that is happening. And if you spend your time, trying to dismiss these things, but without actual facts or evidence, or dismissing a whole bunch of facts and evidence, you're not doing journalism, and you're not doing science. Anyways. I wish I like Kim Iverson. I just don't jump on the climate change is a hoax train just because it's, super trendy, fashionable, or whatever. Don't jump on that train and dismiss a whole bunch of science and evidence in order to do so, because you're going to make yourself look super foolish later. So March is in, and we have reached the pink on the charts. Speaking of temperature, it's just like there's so much data out there. There's so much evidence and data. There's so much things that you could just observe with your own eyes. You know, things if you were just casually looking at the newspaper and looking at these extreme weather events, and you notice them piling up, and tornadoes in Tennessee, or tornadoes where they're not supposed to be, tornadoes at the wrong time of the year, right? It's just become a thing. Again, another thing that this woman just dismissed out of hand, and Kim Iversen didn't bring up or push back on. Anyways, there's lots of observable data and evidence to support the fact that something is different. I don't understand. Phantomas, I see you. Give me a moment before I take your call. Anyways, March is in, and as it's expected, pink, an ever-increasing chance September will reach 1.5 C. 1.5 C. Remember, that we have people just emphatically, and this is the scientific community, right? We have kind of a consensus, if you will, right, to use the word, the dreaded consensus word. We have a consensus that the Earth is at 1.2 or 1.1 or whatever it is. But you also have the WMO saying we are going to hit 1.5, and this is like 2 years ago. They said in the next 5 years we're going to hit 1.5. Not meaning globally 1.5, but we are going to, we're going to start approaching that wall, the 1.5. We're going to hit 1.5, and then sometime in the year, and then as temperatures do, they fluctuate, they go down and they go up, they go down, they go up. As you can see in this graph, right, temperatures fluctuate. You have, browns, blacks, and the dreaded pink. What's brown? Between 0.8 and 1 degree Celsius, right? This is, global temperature. I'm assuming this is, global temperature. Then you have black, between 1 and 1.2. So there's some blacks in here. There's lots of browns, but there's some blacks in here. There's a couple of reds too. Even cooler, but you have pink, which is 1.2, between 1.2 and 1.37. 1.37. We're getting a little close to 1.5, aren't we? He says, new colors will be needed soon. Exactly, because we're going to hit the 1.5. So that, the temperature goes down, then it goes back up, it goes down, it goes back up, right? You saw that we hit some pinks here. 2016, we hit a pink here. 2020, I'm assuming this is 2020, 1, 2, 3, yes, 2020. And people might attribute that to the lockdowns or to, I don't know what. Anyways, here we are at pink again. But if you look at the overall, look at the overall, this is from starting 2001, the overall trend on the graph. If you just look at the graph, you can see where it's going. We've lost all the reds and the light browns here. And now we're in, what's the background color of this section? All brown, meaning, we're not going with a couple of reds, but we're mostly staying in the 0.8 to 1 degree Celsius range. A few fluctuations under and a few fluctuations over. But we will hit the 1.5, and then we will be in new territory. Because it's only a matter of time before that background brown becomes a background black, right? And then and then over time that background black will become a background pink. And that will be interesting. Considering the weather that we're seeing now, that will be interesting. Basil Peterson says 80 degrees here today and snow forecast for next week. The roller coaster is getting out of control. It is a roller coaster. Absolutely right. Yeah, it's crazy. I thought we were back to. I thought we were going to be in spring. It was actually feeling almost summery here for a couple of days, and I was like, all right, here we go. And now now it's like it started raining yesterday, and now it's like, okay, I guess it's winter again. It's very chilly. It, rained all night and all day, and it's very chilly, and we've got winter again. Just whammo. Okay, Phantomas. Yeah, I want to cover this Fort Lauderdale story because there's extreme weather happening. But we'll take this call from Phantomas for a moment. Give me a sec. Give me a sec. All right. Phantomas, how you doing?
How you doing, Kev? If you want to cover the Fort Lauderdale story right now and just continue on with that thought, I'm good with that.
Well, what do you got to say? No, I mean, let's give me your thoughts now.
My main thing on this is what we're going to have to be dealing with, and this is the constant theme that we keep bringing up, which is the charlatans. They just keep building and building. So, to me, this needs to be like a documentary series, a podcast, something of all the people that we're dealing with who are, I don't know any other nice way to say it, this climate hoax shit that they constantly engage in, which is they constantly want to wave off scientists and bring in a lot of people who are just infomercial charlatans selling products that are...
Oops, I lost that last part there. Shoot. Okay. Go back to infomercial charlatans.
The infomercial charlatans that are all around us, they're constantly being raised up as gatekeepers or watchers that we should pay attention to. And the funny thing is that they're not even required any scrutiny from a lot of people who should be broadcasters, who should look at them a little bit closer, who don't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the problem that Kevin, that constantly just, it continues on to this day, and it's more and more every day. And I remember I was talking to someone, I don't know if I brought this up to you, but I was talking about climate change to someone in the chat room of a different show. And they said, yeah, well, we don't have to worry about climate change. It's a reverse magnetic pole reversal we have to worry about. And it's like, you don't care about the scientists? You don't care about any of this stuff? I said, so where do you get this information from? He goes, you got to be careful of the elites. And I was like, what?
Yeah, right. I mean,
well,
yeah.
Scientists are basically witches to them, which is the weirdest thing. And the angels, I guess, or the saints are all of these hucksters who always, I want people to understand this, who always have something to sell, who always have something to give you in terms of a supplement or whatever.
Right.
And it's always a different alternative. And if you look into their backgrounds, it's so apparent of the hucksterism that's going on because they've done it before.
Yeah, it is interesting to me. And I can't necessarily, it's hard for me to paint a group of journalists or broadcasters with it too broad of a brush, but it's true. You're absolutely what you're saying. I find that interesting that it's like all of a sudden this truth is the truth is coming with a big old sales pitch all the time, and I'm like, okay, I mean that's cool and everything, but I find the sales pitch a little not just annoying, but it makes the things that you're saying. I don't know. It seems a little disingenuous to me. So
I'm
it
saying
feels a little bit like okay.
There's no invite from any climate scientists that they could have on, who could walk them through step by step to explain them. I'm not making a lot of money, folks. I'm just telling you the reality of what our planet is going through.
Yeah.
And it's. I mean, it's so apparent, though, Kev, that once they latch onto it, they're not going to let go of it, because once you walk back like that, you look like a fucking fraud.
Well, yeah, exactly, and that's actually, when I'm speaking on Kim Iverson, like, I I I believe that Kim Iverson is a she's a genuine person. I think she
Right.
genuinely believes what she's reporting on. She's trying to do her job as a journalist, and I appreciate that. It's just that she's getting a little caught up, and same with I see even Jimmy Dore or some other people
Yeah.
getting caught up in this, like, well, they lied to us about all these other things. Let's throw climate change in there too. And I'm like, well, hold, hey, slow down there, because you're going to make yourself, you're going to lose your credibility if you just ride a trend.
I'll,
And I see all these people that are former, even Whitney Webb has said she was used to be into climate change, and she was
Yeah.
an environmentalist. And I appreciate her work in uncovering what is going on around the world. But now she's pretty much, in the climate change is a hoax camp. And I'm like, be careful there. Be careful, because you don't want to lose your credibility on something that's just fashionable, right?
I mean,
Especially something that has been an idea that has been pushed from way back. We're talking Rush Limbaugh days.
yeah.
Right? Rush Limbaugh, Ronald Reagan, like that whole like super, Midwestern, like that climate change just screwy, just an idea from the government to break them, right? So you got to differentiate. Yes, there are conspiracies. Yes, there are, plans afoot. Yes, all that stuff is happening, but you got to, you really, you can't just, and I have to say it every single time that these folks keep, dismissing climate change as a hoax, that they always do so. They just run right over it. There's no evidence. There's no data. They don't go deep into it. They just, no, it's just a whole bunch of hooey, right? Like, they get very unscientific very quickly. I'm like, okay, don't do that. I see you. I see what you're doing. Don't do that. Because you're willing to go super deep dive, in all this investigation, journalism, science, evidence, all that you have all this data and evidence for the other things that you want to promote or not promote, but the other things you want to report on. And when you get to climate change, all that journalistic integrity goes right out the window. Or that, journalistic acumen is I'm just gonna, yeah, well, climate change, ha 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 ha. Okay. Don't, I mean, come on now. Don't speak on it if you're not going to actually, really do a dive on it. And I just find it, I find it, I find it interesting. I just find it very interesting. I'm not saying like, a particular group, a whole group of people are all, paid chills or whatever. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying you're repeating things. You're repeating things, and you're not necessarily reporting on them. So, like, do some reporting and not repeating.
Well, I mean, the other thing that I would say is when people constantly bring up Al Gore. I mean, you can talk about that,
or Greta Thunberg. Right?
Yeah, or you can talk about that, but the real problem that I see is all of these people are tied directly to anti-environmentalism, which goes back to anti-community, which goes back to just so many anti-negative aspects in our society, and that's why people should be skeptical completely of what's happening, especially when we have rational discussions about this that are constantly derailed, no pun intended.
Yeah, I mean, it's you gotta, it's hard these days to know what's real and what's fake, and you gotta dig in there, and you actually have to do a lot of your own investigation. But you should always be aware that there are, lots of accounts out there, lots of people on the internet that are, not necessarily straight actors, right? There's, just like I just reported on this yesterday, right? There's a whole part of the government, involved in influencing people, right? Pushing propaganda through social media, right? And it should be well known that that's happening. It's happening everywhere, Twitter, YouTube, everywhere. And, I think, and the new thing, which I also spoke about yesterday, is having people go out there and pose as, well, yeah, climate change is real, but it's really not that big of a deal. Or I'm an environmentalist, but let me tell you the truth about climate change. Okay,
Yeah.
Right. We know that big business is not necessarily concerned with actually addressing climate change. We know that. But you're not actually talking about the actual problem of climate change. You're not actually addressing, well, what is going on and what should we be doing about it? What actually should we be doing about it? You're just spending a whole lot of time kind of pointing fingers at the people that are alarmists, right? You know, and it's like, okay. So it's a very subtle, and that's what the lady that Kim Iverson interviewed was doing. It's a very subtle trick. It's a very subtle trick, but it's a trick nonetheless.
I'll leave it with this on Status Coup today. Aaron Brockovich was on, so check that out when you get a chance, Kev.
Cool. Thanks, man.
All right, man. Later.
All right, right on. Got a couple of super chats here from Tor. Thanks, Tor. Appreciate that. Says, hi, Kev. The show must go on. Thank you. And Reflect the Sun, keeping the channel alive. Thank you. You guys are certainly keeping the channel alive. Thank you. I do always appreciate the support. It actually really does help. Keep this thing chugging along. All right. Right, Denver, all the bad faith actors like Gore and Gates and greenwashing has made a lot of people decide climate change ain't real. This is a controlled dynamic. You are right. It's a controlled dynamic. Absolutely. All right. So let's talk about, Fort Lauderdale got whacked. They got their, just when you think climate change isn't real, some city or some region gets completely leveled by a tornado or by a atmospheric river or by a storm, crazy storm cell. Just when you think it's not real. A catastrophic flood event is unfolding across Fort Lauderdale, Florida. This evening is nearly stationary thunderstorms have dropped 20 inches of rain just today. A rare flash flood emergency has been issued. This is from Teeter Dines. This is the future of Florida. Better get used to it. Underwater. The airport is a lake. Yet another 1 in 1,000 year event. Right? We have a lot of those in the last 5 years. If you're playing on your climate change bingo card at home, over the last, definitely 5 years, I have, noticed, witnessed, marked, marked in my mental notes. Oh, it's another 1 in 500 year event. Another 1 in 1,000 year event. Oh, another 1 in 100 year event. Right? Oh, this is crazy. These seem to be happening all the time now. Well, if they happen every year, then they're not really 1 in 1,000 year events anymore. They're kind of happening every year now, right? So this is just what you should expect. And maybe you might. Where did it go? I had another thing here. Maybe you might consider that the climate has changed, right? If you have a 1 in 1,000 year event every single year, consider the fact that the climate not is changing, but has changed, is different now, is not the same. State of emergency declared in Fort Lauderdale as heavy rain drenches South Florida. Over 25 inches of rain hit the Fort Lauderdale area in 48 hours, forcing a closure of the local airport and evacuation of the fire station. So yeah, that's some things. That's pretty. Now look at this. Look at here. As people have been reporting, a very strange high March. Look at this, 91 degrees in Nebraska. Is that Nebraska? No. What state is that? I can't read a map. I think that's Nebraska. Or Kansas. Nebraska's here, Kansas here. Okay, I think that's Kansas. Is that 91 degrees in Kansas? Jesus. 91 degrees on April 13th. So, really? I mean, 91 is a June, maybe even May. Maybe that might be a weird May temperature. But, mostly like a June, a July. 91. It's April. Fool. It's April, fool. Geez, 86, some extremely high temperatures here. Was it Denver that was telling me it was like 80 degrees in Tennessee the other day? It's here. Look at this. 80s all along the coast, East Coast here. Something's kind of different now. I wonder what it is. Anyways, is this April or June? On this Wednesday, we were getting hundreds of record warm reports in a broad swath from the southwest to the Rockies, through the plains, into the northeast. Everywhere you see 80s and 90s on this chart. Fenrir saying heat stress is already impacting food plants. By June, expect to see widespread crop failures. This account has been, pretty steadily predicting the crop failures. Oh, sorry. I don't necessarily need to have this buzz going on in my broadcast. Sorry about that. Oh, near 90 in Chattanooga Valley last week. Near 90. Yeah, that is, I'm sorry to tell you that. That's not normal, and that's not the climate is always changing. That's like, okay, whoa. Like I said, these are temperatures that are within a range that people go like, oh, it's been that hot before. Okay, yeah, but maybe not in April. Or maybe not in, late March, early April. No, I think that's a little bit kind of out of the realm of normalcy there. But again, it won't be until it's, it won't be until it's 130 degrees in, some city in the Midwest. I don't know if it's this year or next year or the year after that. But, one day it'll be 130 degrees in Dallas, Texas or somewhere. Or maybe it'll be a couple of days. And people will just go, and that's when people will lose their minds, right? That's when people will go, oh, dang. Oh, dang, that is warm. That's the day that they're going to get them Skyriders out real quick, in a quick hurry. Woo-wee. Guys, we can't have it hit 130 degrees. We got to keep the normalcy going. Got to get some clouds up there. Block that sun. Yeah. That is, that's not right. That's not how it's supposed to be. 80 degrees in the Finger Lakes in April and then slamming to snow. Is there a moment when you're going to start admitting that like things are not, I hear it all the time too. I hear people just kind of as an aside, people talking about completely different things going like, well, the weather isn't the same anymore, right? Just people, not even really addressing climate change, but that just in the middle of a conversation, they'll go like, oh yeah, things are just really out of whack. I don't know what's going on with the weather. They'll just say something like that. I'm like, yeah, well, because you're alive and because you have eyes, because you wake up every morning and you can notice when things are kind of off, regular people are like, yeah, this is not normal. This is not how it's supposed to be going. Like, and I've been noticing more of this every year. Judy Truitt says I'm betting Phoenix. Phoenix to be the 130. Well, see, now Phoenix, yeah, maybe you're probably right. Phoenix regularly hits 115, right? That's the thing. You know, you might get an anomaly in Phoenix of like 130. You know, 130 is hot. So it doesn't really matter where it is in the continental U.S. If it's a major city that hits 130, people are going to be like, oh shit. But yeah, we'll see what people have to say about that. We'll see what people have to say about that. A lot of people telling me that people have already lost their minds. I know, but I'm just saying in the conventional, like, what? Oh my God. Yeah, I mean, you know, yes, people have already lost their minds. Basil Peterson says, I've been keeping a garden diary for 20 years. It has become exponential, the change. Yeah. And people who aren't really like super focused on climate change say stuff like, where did all the insects go? I used to drive across the country and my windshield would be full of insects and now I don't get one. Stuff like that, right? People say stuff like that all the time. Yes. Do you think that's normal? Do you think that's okay? Do you think everything's all right then? What do you think that might mean for the future of humans? Because that's the only people you care about, of course, is people. You don't care about, well, you know, what's the future of wild animals? What's the future of the biosphere in general? What's the future of the thing that all keeps us alive? Maybe you should consider that question. But, and then, you know, to go back a little bit to, you know, Fantomas was talking about, you know, people are really, you know, they're fossil fuels. There's a song called People Make the World Go Round. Not so much. I beg to disagree. I beg to differ. Fossil fuels make the world go round. They really do. You cannot have 8 billion people on the planet without fossil fuels. You cannot. You cannot. Lots of people know this. They understand this. If you took all the fossil fuels away, you'd probably be taking a lot of people away. And that's, I mean, so there's some truth when people are like, they want to take you off fossil fuels. They're going to commit billions of people to death. I mean, it's true. That's a true statement. Because fossil fuels make the world go round. But it's just not as cool of a song lyric. Fossil fuels make the world go round. But it ain't people. I mean, people are driving the ship, I guess. But $673 billion investment finance in fossil fuels last year. $673 billion investment finance in fossil fuels last year. Here are the top 30 banks investing in the destruction of the biosphere since 2016. Now you know what they get their bonuses for. There's no safe haven from planetary destruction. And I'm telling you, that is a lot. That is a chunk of change right there. And if you want to know why we're up in all these wars and up in all everybody's business, you know, why the United States is all up in everybody's business, because it's where we know that that particular thing makes the world go round, and he who controls that particular thing, you know, will be doing a lot better than the people that don't have that particular thing, that thing called fossil fuels. And, you know, you can scaremonger all day about the, you know, the trying to take your fossil fuels away and give you wind turbines, and no, that's not happening anytime soon. Sorry to tell you that. They know what makes the world go round, and they are not going to let go of it. Not one iota are they willing to let go of this thing that makes the world go around. U.S. troops conduct new oil theft operation in northeast Syria. We talked about this the other day. Serena Shim, I think it was, who was killed doing some journalism, reporting on the fact that we were basically ISIS was funneling oil to us through Turkey from Syria, right? They were the proxy to go in there and give us an excuse to go in there and be all up in Syria's business. And we don't like Assad either. We were supposed to try to get rid of Assad. I mean, the guy was in charge of a semi-democratic functioning country for a while, and we didn't like that. They had oil over there too, so we had to go get it. So we had to make up some stories about Assad, make up some stories about some people, beheading people, blah blah blah. Anyways, from Sarah, they scream about Russia's invasion of Ukraine while they illegally invaded Syria, are occupying Syria and stealing Syrian oil. It is happening. And they did not like Trump when he said that they didn't. I mean, Trump was like, I don't know what his purpose for saying this was. I mean, he just said it out loud. We're taking the oil. We've taken the oil.
Moved our troops out on the border between Turkey and Syria. That turned out to be such a successful move, Laura. Look what happened. Now they protect their own. They've been fighting over that border for 1,000 years. Why should we do it? And then they say he left troops in Syria. You know what I did? I left troops to take the oil. I took the oil. The only troops I have are taking the oil. They're protecting the oil. I took over
we're taking the oil. We're not taking the oil.
Maybe we will. Maybe we won't.
They're protecting the facility.
I don't know. Maybe we should take it.
She's like, get it. She's like, get it together, Donald Trump. We're protecting we're not taking the oil. We're protecting the facilities. Okay. If you want to put it like that.
But we have the oil. Right now, the United States has the oil. So they say he left troops in Syria. No, I got rid of all of them other than we're protecting the oil.
I don't know how many times he can say that. Was he, I'm just like, was he just being a goofball and just like, everybody's off stage going, Shh, don't say that. Or was he, or was he like, let me give it to these people a little bit. Was that pure buffoonery or was that 3D chess? You tell me. Or was he like, yeah, I'm gonna blurt this out on national television and watch the heads explode. Ha ha ha. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what he's doing. Yeah, but there's a whole, article about us taking the oil. Taking the oil. We're taking the oil. I left the troops there. We're taking the oil. Syria has incurred losses of $100 billion in its oil and gas sector since the start of the war. The Western-backed war. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, and, we're in Ukraine. We've been blowing up pipelines. We've been sanctioning Russian oil. However, it doesn't really seem to matter. They're making money hand over fist. Selling oil to, what was the news story? Saudi Arabia is buying Russian oil, then reselling it to Europe. Because we were sanctioning Russian oil, and because we blew up a pipeline, and we're not allowing Russia to sell oil to certain countries, which is actually undermining our allies, which doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? And another big story from Seymour Hersh: the CIA knows Ukrainian officials are skimming U.S. aid. The CIA estimates at least $400 million was embezzled last year in funds earmarked for diesel payments. Another Seymour Hersh exclusive. I got to wrap up the show, but we'll look at this for a moment. From April 12th. Seymour Hersh, the CIA knows Ukrainian oil officials are skimming U.S. aid. All right. And I mean, there's been so much, suggested that, there's a money laundering campaign going on. And, well, the Ukrainian officials are skimming $400 million. Do you think they're keeping all that money? Think there might be kickbacks from the skimming? Think it might be, we'll send you some money. You keep this much. You send us back this money, right? You funnel this money into this bank. Yep. But blame it on crypto. I don't know. The report said the Ukrainian government has been using U.S. taxpayer money to purchase diesel from Russia to fuel its military. Hersh said Zelensky has been buying the fuel from Russia, the country with which it and Washington are at war. Wow. And the Ukrainian president and many in his entourage have been skimming untold millions from the American dollars earmarked for diesel fuel payments. How's that for a twist? How's that for a plot twist? Hersh said, according to one estimate by CIA analysts, at least $400 million in funds were embezzled last year. So the CIA knows this. They know this. They know this. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is not a, oh, it's no. No, the CIA knows this. They're pissed at Seymour Hersh, by the way. Sources told Hersh that Ukrainian officials are also competing to set up companies for export contracts to private arms dealers around the world. What are we going to do with all these tanks? Do you think we're actually going to beat Russia? No. Why don't we? I think we could sell some of these on the black market. Hersh wrote, the senior generals and government officials in Kiev were angry at what they saw as Zelensky's greed. So Burns told the Ukrainian president because he was taking a larger share of the skim money than was going to the generals. Wow. During the meeting, Burns presented Zelensky with a list of 35 generals and senior government officials whose corruption was known to the CIA. Oh, this is a meeting between CIA Director William Burns and Zelensky in January. The issue of corruption was raised during the meeting. During the meeting, Burns presented Zelensky with a list of 35 generals and senior government officials whose corruption was known to the CIA. Zelensky responded by dismissing 10 officials who were engaged in flagrant corruption. The 10 he got rid of were brazenly bragging about the money they had driving around Kiev in their new Mercedes, the intelligence official said. Hersh said Zelensky's half-hearted response and the lack of concern in the White House angered some U.S. intelligence officials. The intelligence official speaking to Hersh criticized President Biden's two main foreign policy advisors, Secretary of State Antony Blinken and National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan. They have no experience, judgment, and moral integrity. They just tell lies, make up stories. Diplomatic deniability is something else, the official said. The official said there was a total breakdown between the White House leadership and the intelligence community. Wow. Yeah, because, people love Biden so much. Wow. The report said the rift started in the fall when the Nord Stream natural gas pipelines were blown up. According to Hersh's earlier reporting, President Biden ordered the operation that took out the pipelines. The official said there was no strategy for ending the war within the Biden administration and offered more scathing criticism of Blinken and Sullivan. Burns is not the problem, the official said. The problem is Biden and his principal lieutenants, Blinken and Sullivan, and their court of worshippers, who see those who criticize Zelensky as being pro-Putin. We are against evil. Ukraine will fight till the last military shell is gone and still fight. And here's Biden, who is telling America that we're going to fight as long as it takes. Huh. Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. Which is why they're, making up ridiculous stories about beheadings, Russians beheading Ukrainians. Okay. Because they got to keep the morale going. They got to keep the shock and awe value up in the news for people to go, oh my God, they're bad. We got to keep going. We got to keep this war going. I want to play this. I know it's getting late, but I need to play this because it's funny. This is some dialogue between a BBC reporter and Elon Musk. The BBC reporter claiming that there's more hate speech on Twitter, which come on now. There's not. There's actually nothing different about Twitter. And that includes the censorship too. But there's nothing really different about Twitter. But this is a funny bit of dialogue here.
Content you don't like or hateful? What do you mean to describe a hateful thing?
Yeah, I mean, just content that will solicit a reaction, something that may include something that is slightly racist or slightly sexist, those kinds of things.
So you think if something is slightly sexist, it should be banned?
No,
is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying anything. I'm
just curious. I'm trying to understand what you mean by hateful content, and I'm asking for specific examples. And you just said that if something is slightly sexist, that's hateful content. Does that mean that it should be banned?
Well, you've asked me whether my feed, whether it's got less or more. I'd say it's got slightly more.
That's why I'm asking for examples.
Right.
Can you name one example?
I honestly don't use. Honestly, I
you
don't.
Can't name a single example.
I'll tell you why. Because I don't actually use that for you feed anymore. Because I just don't particularly like it.
But you
actually,
said
a lot of people are quite similar. I only look at
hang on a
my
second. You said you've seen more hateful content, but you can't name a single example, not even one.
I'm not sure I've used that feed for the last 3 or 4 weeks, and
then how did you see the hateful content?
Because I've been using Twitter since you've taken it over for the last 6 months.
Okay, so then you must have at some point seen for you hateful content. I'm asking for one example.
Right.
And you can't give a single one.
And I'm saying,
then I say, sir, that you don't know what you're talking about.
Really?
Yes, because you can't give me a single example of hateful content, not even one tweet, and yet you claimed that the hateful content was high.
Well,
that's false.
No, what I claimed.
You just lied.
What I claimed was there are many organisations that say that kind of information is on the rise. Now, whether it has on my
feed
or
example.
Not, I mean, right, and
literally
you can
name
someone
one.
like the Strategic Dialogue Institute in the UK, they will say that. So
look, people will say all sorts of nonsense. I'm literally asking for a single example, and you can't name one.
Right, and as I already said, I don't use that feed. But
then how would you know?
I don't think this is getting anywhere.
You literally said you experienced more hateful content, and then couldn't name a single example.
Right, and as I said,
that's absurd.
I haven't actually looked at that feed.
Then how would you know this hateful content?
Because I'm saying that's what I saw a few weeks ago. I can't give you an exact example. Let's move on. We only have a certain amount of time.
Okay. That was funny, humorous. Anyways, as the broadcaster says, let's move on. We don't have a lot of time, so I'm gonna end the show now. Thank you guys for your eyes, your ears, and your conscience. Thanks for hanging out with me every day on the internet, and appreciate everyone who tipped today. I didn't actually check the coffees yet. I will check in. That's a really good way to support the show. buymeacoffee.com/blackbearnews. None today yet, but you can avail yourself of that platform anytime. All right, guys. I will see you all tomorrow, the regular time of 12 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. Until next time, peace.